The Battle of Tukayyid, Smoke Jaguar Theatre. Still smarting over their humiliating failure to capture Luthien, the Smoke Jaguars won the right to land first, but only by bidding away an entire galaxy, a third of their force. Further dooming their chances, the Jaguars assumed that only one galaxy each would be required to capture the target cities defended by the Comguard's 5th Army, with the Khan Lincoln Ossus-led Alpha Galaxy establishing a landing zone in the mountains near Dinju Heights, with Sarkhan Sarah Weaver leading Beta Galaxy in staging a combat drop into the marshes of the Rassus River Delta in preparation for an assault on Port Rassus. The assault on Dinju Heights started well for the Jaguars, with the 6th Jaguar Dragoons wiping out the Green 50th Division to secure Alpha Galaxy's drop site. As the Dragoons and Jaguar Grenadiers started their march for Dinju Heights, they didn't realise the modest resistance offered by the remains of the 50th was but a cover for heavier elements of the 299th and 323rd Divisions hidden in the Dinju Pass. Viewing the seemingly undefended pass as too good to be true, the unclan-like caution of Jaguar Grenadiers commander Star Colonel Brandon Howell led him to suspect it was an ambush, sending a probing action to smoke out any hidden Comguard troops while ordering the rest of his Omnimex to run along the pass walls at flank speed. While almost completely obliterating the probe force, the 299th and 323rd could only engage the bulk of the Grenadiers briefly before they raced past, inflicting heavy losses, but unable to prevent a sizable portion of the Jaguar unit making it through to reach the outskirts of their target city. However, when the 6th Jaguar Dragoons attempted to make their own run, the 299th and 323rd had emerged from hiding and were crowding the floor of the pass, creating a gauntlet of overwhelming firepower, with Khan Ossus seemingly killed as the Dragoons took heavy casualties. Meanwhile, the Comguard forces in the Rassus River Delta used the advantages offered by the terrain and well-placed artillery fire to herd Beta Galaxy into the marshes. Hit-and-run attacks by the 367th, 403rd and 207th Divisions of the 5th Army drove the Jaguars further and further into the Delta, slowing Beta's pace and giving the dug-in Comguard unit ample ambush opportunities, while at the same time negating the clan's advantages of weapons range and superior heatsink technology. Drawing the Jaguars further in, the 207th Division eventually succeeded in surrounding Beta Galaxy's command star, killing Sarkhan Weaver. With the Presenter Marshal now reinforcing the 5th Army with divisions drawn from the Comguard's 2nd Army, the loss of both Smoke Jaguar Khans forced Ilkhan Kerensky to terminate the Jaguar campaign. While the demoralised Beta Galaxy dutifully obeyed, those in Alpha Galaxy were enraged by what they felt was a Wolf Clan snub to their sacrifices and vowed to fight to the death. Unable to fight their way back through the pass to save the Dragoons as the numerical superiority of the 299th and 323rd ground them to dust, the Grenadiers launched a desperate assault against the 82nd and 322nd Divisions outside Dinju Heights, which pushed them back and allowed the Grenadiers an opening to withdraw to their dropships. In all, 32% of the Smoke Jaguar's 2 galaxies were killed, with materiel losses being so extreme, only 22% of equipment made it off Tukayyid. The Jaguars comprehensively unprepared for the tactics and warfare of the Comguards. The Jaguars had kept up their savage level of combat, believing that they faced only a handful of remaining foes, having never realised that the 2nd Army had been brought in to reinforce the 5th. Also, they remained unaware of how close they came to potentially crippling the entire Comguard's command structure and turning the battle in favour of all clans, with the 122nd Strike Cluster coming within 30 kilometres of the Presenter Marshal's hidden Tamo bunker, only to be obliterated with a well-placed ambush and aerial bombardment before they could announce their position. Like all clans, the Jaguar's future was shaped by their performance on Tukayyid. The heavy losses suffered by its most elite galaxies could not be easily replaced, and unceasing raiding from both the Draconis Combined Mustard Soldiery and Clan Novacat prevented them from fully regaining their pre-Tukayyid strength. While the rise of unconventional Brandon Howell to Khan of the Jaguars in the days after the battle raised the possibilities of new thinking that would save his clan, the discovery that Lincoln Ossus had in fact survived the battle after being found by rescue crews shattered it, Howell ceding his title to Ossus and further cementing the Jaguars on the path of their eventual destruction at the hands of the reborn Star League's Operation Bulldog. The Jaguar's fate was also sealed through the embittered Smoke Jaguar warrior Trent, his loyalty to his clan shattered by the trickery and betrayal by his superiors on Tukayyid. Trent aided his bondswoman and Blake's Wrath agent, Judith Faber, in acquiring the Exodus Road, which had allowed the reborn SLDF to launch Task Force Serpent and complete the annihilation of the Jaguars. The Battle of Tukayyid. Novacat Theatre. Clan Novacat's Alpha, Beta and Gamma galaxies was assigned to take the cities of Yohei and Tost, facing the veteran Comguard 7th Army, bolstered by reserve Green divisions from the 12th Army. The Novacat's Khan, Severin LaRue, chose to launch their campaigns with the Novacat's daring hover drop maneuver, with Omnimex and Elementals leaping from their hovering dropships in the atmosphere instead of requiring heat-dissipating drop pods. Unfortunately, the Comguard's 417th Division gained air superiority over the drop zones and greatly damaged the landing forces with a kamikaze attack, destroying the Alpha Galaxy command ship with all hands. While Sarkhan, Lucian Khan's questioned if Alpha Galaxy's terrible losses had affected its ability to take Tost, Khan LaRue led his troops to the city as planned. The Katz's Gamma Galaxy and the remains of Alpha pushed past the 244th Division to rush towards Yohei, only to be stopped by the 417th and 9th Divisions at the edge of the city, with the Comguard forces luring the Cats into attacking via well-defended Vibra-bomb-seeded minefields. Air and armour harassed the advancing clan forces, finally stopping them less than 5 kilometres from their target. Clan Novacat tried to relieve the pressure on their stalled advance on Yohei by sending Beta Galaxy's 44th Novacat Cavaliers east along the Losija Lake Road toward Tost, while the rest of the clan redoubled its efforts to take Yohei. However, reserve units from the 13th and 431st Divisions were already in position along the road, crushing the attempted breakout. By the 3rd of May, Clan Novacat had made 3 desperate attempts to seize both target cities, but each was beaten back as the Cats quickly ran out of ballistic ammunition and missile reloads. However, their repeated attacks had begun to weaken the defenders of Yohei, with the 417th and 9th Divisions finally forced to pull back and regroup. With the 467th Division attempting to cut the Cats off from their landing zones, a desperate Sarkar Khans tried to regain the offensive by ordering Gamma Galaxy and elements of Beta to stage a fighting withdrawal to draw as much attention to themselves. As the 244th and 467th Division headed toward the eastern shores of the lake to combine their forces and harass the retreating Gamma, the bulk of Beta emerged from the lake, having secretly and slowly followed the river into the lake itself. Caught unawares, both divisions were shattered, and the Novacats captured several Comstar supply depots in the process. While having finally pushed Alpha into retreat from Yohei, the Comguards recognized that the resupplied Beta and Gamma could likely take the city. Unfortunately, the 13th and 431st Divisions were still tied up battling Alpha, and the 167th and 312th were unable to reach the battlefield in time, with the 9th, 417th and 116th Divisions ordered to leave Yohei completely undefended to launch a furious counterattack. This tremendous gamble would pay off, with the Comguard divisions attacking while the Novacat techs were still uncrating their captured supplies. Charging into the fray with near suicidal abandon, the Comguards pushed the Cats back, recapturing or destroying the supplies. Both Novacat Khans now recognized the battle had turned against them, ordering a general withdrawal to their dropships. The Comguards didn't let up, continuing to harass the battered Novacats all the way back to their drop zones, with only a single trinary of Beta Galaxy and their Omnimex making it off-world. Clan Novacat lifted off Tukayyid in defeat, having set foot in neither Tost or Yohei. While a mere 3 Novacat stars had survived intact, the clan's forces had inflicted greater losses on the Comguards than they in turn suffered, greater than any other on Tukayyid. The Battle of Tukayyid, Steel Viper Theatre. Assigned the targets of Kozis Ranch Station and Kelly Springs, the Steel Viper Khans bid 3 galaxies, the front line Alpha and Gamma, with the second line Zeta as reserve. While earning them an earlier landing, replacing the frontline Beta with a second-line Garrison Galaxy was also intended as an insult to the Comguard forces. Due to a lack of troops, Presenter Marshal Vogt couldn't assign his desired 2 armies to oppose the Vipers, opting instead to use the highly ranked 6th Army with just 2 extra divisions for reinforcements. However, the Comguard's defence was bolstered by Devil's Bath, a horrific combination of geysers, boiling mud and narrow paths, walled by a massive granite column stretching for dozens of kilometres between the Vipers' intended drop zone and their target cities. Having learned from Smoke Jaguar's mistake, the Vipers set down en masse on the open expanse of the Kozis Plains, with Alpha and Gamma solely advancing upon the primary objective of Kozis Ranch Station. Harassing the Vipers with artillery and aerospace fighter barrages, the 6th Division's ground forces held off their attack until the clan forces entered Devil's Bath. As the 6th lured the Vipers in, with the tight paths negating the clan's weapons' superior range and missteps losing entire stars to bottomless pools of boiling mud, Khan Natalie Breen realised too late her troops had stumbled into a massive trap. As the Vipers attempted to withdraw, Presenter Bishor Yakel of the 6th Division used his Atlas's satellite uplink to personally issue a public challenge and goad them into continuing the attack. Now enraged by this insult, the Vipers redoubled their advance, pushing the 6th and 78th Division through Devil's Bath. While inflicting heavy damage on the comm guards, both Alpha and Gamma galaxies used up their ammunition at a tremendous rate. Any hope of resupply was dashed when the elite 1st Division struck the Viper's supply lines. Gamma's 57th Striker Cluster finally succeeded in pinning down and obliterated the hated 6th at the cost of their remaining ammo. Ordering Zeta Galaxy to support and escort the virtually unarmed Alpha and Gamma galaxies, the 78th finally crumbled as all 3 Steel Viper galaxies succeeded in reaching the far side of the Bath. There they met the fresh and untouched 321st and 401st Divisions, who stalled the Viper's advance until the 1st and 386th Divisions could enter the fray and finally drive the clan forces back. With the defeat of several other clans freeing up other divisions from other fronts that could be redeployed against them, Khan Breen ordered her warriors to board their dropships. The humiliation of the defeat led Natalie Breen to resign her position, but her decision ensured that the clan suffered the lowest casualties of any clan on Tukayyid, which would prove a boon when the Vipers launched their invasion of the Jade Falcon occupation zone as an outlet for their anger. The Battle of Tukayyid. Diamond Shark Theatre. Relatively untried in the invasion, Rom's intelligence rated the Diamond Sharks as the weakest clan to take part on Tukayyid, and Presenter Marshal Fox selected the relatively inexperienced 8th Army and remaining green divisions of the 2nd Army to face them. Overeager to try and win first landing rights, the mere 5 clusters that Diamond Shark Khan Ian Hawker bid, 2 each from the frontline Alpha and Gamma galaxies bolstered by 1 from the second line Omega galaxy, were easily surpassed by the concessions offered by the other clans, and the Sharks were to land second last. With both the Diamond Sharks' target cities lying 20 kilometers from one another, the Sharks landed in the middle of the Kosis Valley that divided them. Alpha Galaxy's 19th Heavy Cluster and 39th Striker Cluster setting out for Kosis Prime, with Gamma's 222nd Assault and 369th Striker Clusters heading toward the secondary target of Urkanat, Hawker's hatred for freeborns leading him to keep the Omega in reserve. While the 39th Striker were repulsed by the veteran 31st Division, the 19th Heavy Cluster inflicted losses of over 30% on the green 85th Division, as it bought the 182nd Division enough time to outflank and hold the clusters of Alpha Galaxy in a brutal slugging match. As the fighting between the 182nd and both clusters of Alpha dissolved into stalemate, despite their losses, the 85th would join the 31st and 56th Divisions in attacking the Sharks' rear in an attempt to disrupt their supply lines. With Gamma's advance on Urkanat also stalled, its clusters turned to face this new threat, with the 222nd Assault winning the bid to destroy the Raiders. The 222nd quickly encountered the 85th Division, but neither side were able to gain the advantage over the other as the fighting became increasingly brutal. With the 85th Division tying up the Shark supply lines for an entire day, Star Colonel Seth Davis's patience would run out, breaking Bachal to order the rest of the Gamma Galaxy to obliterate the infuriating Comstar Division. While the 85th finally crumbled with the remaining bulk of Gamma sent against it, though, taking the doomed 222nd down with them, their sacrifice was avenged by the 31st and 56th Divisions, who in turn obliterated the entirety of Gamma Galaxy. So focused on destroying the 85th, and with the defeat of Clan Smoke Jaguar freeing up Comguard reinforcements, the Sharks were totally unprepared when the fresh troops of the 5th Army performed a combat trot behind their front lines, cutting off both Alpha and Gamma Galaxies from their landing zones and supply depots. As the 82nd, 301st and 182nd Divisions advanced to assist their brothers in the valley, the shocked Shark Khans realised their forces were completely surrounded and dangerously low on ammunition. Regrouping their surviving clusters for a desperate all-out frontal assault in the hopes of breaking through encircling Comguard forces, Sarkhan Senate called in the reserve Freebirth 3rd Shark regulars from the Freebirth Omega Galaxy to try and rescue the frontline troops of Alpha and Gamma. While the fresh mechs of the 3rd Regulars were able to fight their way past the 323rd and 299th Divisions, the glorious frontal assault launched by Khan Hawker to meet up with them was effortlessly shredded by the Comstar troops. The 3rd Regulars finally reached the battered remains of Alpha and Gamma galaxies and opened a hole for them to escape back to the landing zone, but the Comguard forces refused to let up and harassed the Sharks as they withdrew. As the massed Comguards prepared for the killing blow, despite the fact that Khan Hawker so despised them, the 3rd Shark Regulars silently advanced directly into the Comguard's line of attack. Though Comstar's forces utterly destroyed them, their sacrifice allowed the surviving Trueborn warriors of Alpha and Gamma to escape to their dropships, with a chastised Khan Hawker formally rescinding his ban on freeborns serving in the Sharks' frontline forces in recognition of their bravery. Clan Diamond Shark paid the price for their inexperience with the tactics of the Inner Sphere, with the Comguards almost destroying their entire force. Their defeat on Tukayyid, compounded by the loss shortly after of their sole Inner Sphere possession of Nicerta to the Ghost Bears, resulted in the Sharks' merchant caste taking a much more prominent role in dealing with the Inner Sphere and the clan as a whole. The Battle of Tukayyid. Ghost Bear Theatre. The Ghost Bears made an official bid of 3 frontline galaxies, Alpha, Beta and Delta, with the Comguard's defenders consisting primarily of the veteran-ranked 1st Army, supported by the green 4th Army. Having earned the right to land in the 5th hour of combat, and trusting in the superior strength of their forces, both Ghost Bear Khans laid a simple plan to target their cities at once, with the elite Alpha focused on the target city of Spanak, while Beta and Gamma made their way to Luk. Fearful that the inexperienced 4th Army would break under the combat with the clans, Presenter Catherine Luarca ordered them to stay and defend Luk as she sent her 1st Army to harass the Bears, save keeping her veteran 103rd Division back to defend Spanak. The battle around Spanak quickly turned against the Comguards, with the 1st Army's 308th Division having little effect in slowing Alpha Galaxy down, suffering heavy losses in the process. The fighting around Luk initially was little better, with the Bears' Beta Galaxy utterly decimating the 121st Division, until the 91st and 12th Divisions emerged from hidden positions and succeeded in trapping and inflicting heavy losses on Delta Galaxy's 20th Polar Bear attack cluster, turning the tide and forcing Beta and Delta to withdraw. While saving Luk from immediate attack, this unfortunately left the 91st dangerously out of position as it fell back to assist the defence of Spanak, arriving on the outskirts of the city barely ahead of Alpha Galaxy's Omnimex. Having made more headway in their assault on Spanak, the Bear Khans ordered Beta and Delta to move in and reinforce Alpha. While the Comguard forces outside Spanak attempted to prevent Beta and Delta from linking up with Alpha, save for the 12th Division's brilliant ambush and destruction of Beta's 7th Bear Guards in Hulf Forest, the bulk made it through relatively intact. Unable to reach proper defensive positions while under fire from Alpha, the addition of Beta and Delta allowed the Bears to overrun the 91st and capture most of its supply caches intact. Recognising her grave mistake in only committing the 1st Army to fight the Bears, Presenter Luarca ordered her 103rd to keep fighting no matter the cost, until she was forcibly ordered out by Presenter Focht himself, viewing the loss of Spanak a lesser evil over the loss of a full veteran division. The Ghost Bears had barely claimed the city when 2 divisions from the 4th Army launched mass artillery barrages on their positions, covering probing raids from the remains of the 91st and 12th Divisions. In the face of this assault, the Bear Khans ordered Beta and Delta to hold Spanak, while Alpha mustered for an attack on Luk. While the remaining divisions of the 4th Army defending Luk boasted superior numbers, the entire Alpha Galaxy tore into the untried 4th as feared, and the Green Army came close to breaking. Just as the Bears' 50th Striker cluster entered Luk's suburbs, the Comguard defenders of Luk got help from an unexpected source, Presenter Luarca. Hoping to redeem her loss of Spanak, she led her 103rd Division along with the remains of the 308th Division in an attack against Alpha's main supply depot. Guarded only by Freebirth warriors and second-line mechs, the Bears were forced to decide which was more important, the now vital ammunition, or continuing the offensive on Luk. The Bears pulled back to reinforce Spanak. At this point, the Ilkhan declared the Ghost Bear campaign as a draw, now lacking the strength to take Luk, and with the defeat of the other clans allowing the Presenter Marshal to reassign other, fresher divisions to bolster the Comguard defence, the Bear Khans chose to safeguard what they'd won, and agreed, withdrawing their forces from Tukayyid. The Presenter Marshal also welcomed its end. While the Bears had earned a marginal victory, he could now assign the 1st and 4th Armies to fight the equally hard-fighting Jade Falcons. Thanks to their mindset and their partial victory, the Ghost Bears wasted little time in the petty recriminations of the other clans with the Truce of Tukayyid, quickly moving to reinforce and build upon all they'd captured in the clan invasion. These efforts would eventually evolve into the startling choice to move their clan wholesale to the Inner Sphere and the creation of the Ghost Bear Dominion. The Battle of Tukayyid, Jade Falcon Theatre. Assigned the target cities of Olala and Hump Tulips, the Jade Falcon Khans bid their Delta, Vow, and Gamma galaxies. While not opting to take special measures with regards to its supplies and weapon configurations, their experience with dishonourable Inner Sphere tactics and eagerness to outdo Clan Wolf led the Falcon Khans Elias Critchell and Vandervan Chistu to forbid their forces from Bachal during the battle. In an effort to secure an earlier landing and mock the Comguards, the Daysgra Falcon Guard unit, tainted by its humiliating loss on Twycross and led by the highly unconventional Aiden Pride, were bid into the Falcon contingent. The Comguard's defending forces consisted of the largely green-rated 11th and 3rd Armies, bolstered by the addition of the 394th, 77th and 309th Divisions from the 2nd, 12th and 1st Armies. Due to a lack of actual combat experience on the part of the 11th and 3rd's combat staff, the campaign was almost entirely directed by Presenter Marshal Vogt. Allowing their dropships to land unopposed, the Presenter Marshal exploited the Jade Falcon's cautious and slow-moving advance by ordering the 394th Division to pull its scouts back and strike and hiss, to engage in hit-and-run attacks that were shown to be most effective against the clans. The troops of the 394th proceeded to launch endless ambushes on the Falcon advance, unleashing a massive hail of fire and retreating before the clan warriors could effectively engage them. Suffering only minimal losses in return, the 394th's attacks convinced the overly cautious Falcons that they were facing not one, but multiple divisions from the 11th Army, successfully delaying their advance and buying the defenders of Plough Bridge and Robin's Crossing vital time to prepare. The only two bridges across the violent Presno River, these would prove natural bottlenecks for the advancing clan forces and ensure more straight-up fighting that suited their warriors. Defending the approaches to Robin's Crossing, the 403rd Division was crushed by the 1st Falcon Striker Cluster, the clan cluster inflicting greater than 70% casualties as they brushed aside the regular rated division. As the Falcons' 305th Assault and 124th Striker Cluster advanced to Plough Bridge, the defending 214th Division broke under the massed fire of the 305th's assault-weight Omnimex. Having dug in around Robin's Crossing, the 388th Division held that bridge in the face of a heavy push by the 12th Falcon Regulars, but were forced back when the jump jet-equipped command star of Aiden Pride's Falcon Guards reinforced the Regulars with an unorthodox flanking action. While suffering heavy losses, these divisions were successful in buying time for Comguard sappers to rig demolition charges to collapse both bridges when the Falcons tried to cross, sending the command star and 2 trinaries of the 12th Falcon Regulars and a trinary and 2 binaries of the 305th to their deaths in the fast-moving river. Before the Falcons could regroup, the 3rd Army's 111th and 201st Divisions emerged from hiding on the other side of the river, pushing the clan forces back with long-range weapons fire and artillery strikes. Pulling back to repair and resupply as the clan's Omni fighters ceaselessly pounded the Comguard troops at the bridgeheads, Aiden Pride and Martha Pride led Falcon Guards and 2nd Falcon Regulars eventually broke the stalemate by moving downstream and establishing a makeshift breakwater in the middle of the river through the sacrifice of a star of Omnimex. The jump jet equipped mechs of the Falcon Guards and 2nd Regulars now successfully were able to cross. While a costly manoeuvre, losing 3 more mechs and Star of Elementals in the process, the 111th and 201st Divisions were totally unprepared for the attack on this side of the river and retreated to the target city of Olala as the Falcon clusters captured both Plough Bridge and Robin's Crossing. With both sides of the bridge in Falcon's hands and clan techs settling about constructing pontoon bridges to allow the other clusters to more easily cross, the Falcon Guard and 2nd Regulars then advanced toward Olala. Highly suspicious at the seemingly undefended city as Cale Pershaw, high above in a suborbital spotter plane, also began to detect disparities between the Olala he saw and the pre-invasion hollow images of the city, Aiden Pride ordered only a single heavy star to enter. As the Falcon mechs entered the city centre, the 77th Division emerged from hidden bunkers buried beneath the city's streets, Comstar engineers having moved the entire city brick by brick and transforming it into a giant trap. Unfortunately, thanks to Pride's concerns, it snapped shut only on a single star, the Falcon Guard successfully escaping and finally destroying the remains of the 111th and 201st Divisions in the process. With the arrival of the first Falcon Velites, 89th and 94th Falcon Strikers, the Guards and 2nd Regulars now ruthlessly hunted down and obliterated the 77th Division and captured the city. But this triumph would be short-lived, as Comguard dropships transporting the 6 fresh divisions assigned to the defence of Humptulus prepared to land and retake it. Elsewhere, the battle also began to turn dangerously against the Falcons. With the withdrawal of Clan Ghostbear from Tukayyid freeing up the remains of the 1st and 4th armies, the Presenter Marshal assigned the 4th to assist the 388th and 214th in a massive assault against the Falcons' repair and resupply depots at Ploughbridge and Robin's Crossing, while the divisions of the 1st joined the bulk of the 11th Army in the recapture of Olala. Though the Falcons' Delta and Vau Galaxies held their ground against the counterattack, a Comguard airstrike succeeded in destroying Gamma Galaxy's supply depot at Robin's Crossing. Now facing 4 full Comguard armies, and with all Falcon units with the exception of the Falcon Guards running low on ammunition and supplies to take both objectives, the destruction of the depot forced the Falcon Khans to reluctantly order a general withdrawal. The withdrawal was, if anything, even more bloody than the advance. As the Falcons attempted to retreat from Olala to the bridgeheads, the 309th Division attempted to cut off their escape, as the 2nd Falcon Regulars raced to stop them. In some of the most bloody combat on the entire world, the Green 309th stood their ground to the last, with the 2nd Regulars suffering near 70 losses before it utterly obliterated the Comguard Division. Now able to cross the bridge at Robin's Crossing, the 4 withdrawing clusters smashed through the 90th Division as they advanced towards the Jade Falcon's original landing zone. Just as the Falcon troops drew close, 2 Overlord-class dropships carrying the 104th Division attempted to land behind Falcon lines in an attempt to catch the clans in a pincer movement. Unfortunately, a group of Falcon Elementals were able to attack the Comguard dropships moments after landing, successfully destroying one and tying up the other before they could deploy their mechs. While the Comguard forces fanatically threw themselves at the Falcons in an attempt to stop them, the Falcon Guards beat back the attackers and allowed their fellows to board and escape. Remaining behind to allow the escape of wounded troops, Falcon Guards CO Star Colonel Aiden Pride would defeat over 2 mech level 2s before he finally fell. As Clan Jade Falcon succeeding in briefly capturing Alara and inflicting significantly higher losses on the Comguards than they suffered in turn, the Ilkhan and the Presenter Marshal agreed that they had earned a draw. Almost all the Jade Falcon's successes could be attributed to Aiden Pride and his Falcon Guards. While both Pride and his unit considered virtually days grow before the battle, his unconventional outlook proved the perfect foil for the Comguard's tactics designed to combat traditional clan opponents. The Crusader Falcons would prove to be the biggest opponents to the result of Tukayyid, trying to undermine and break the truce via the Red Corsair and extract revenge on the Wolves via the Refusal War. The Battle of Tukayyid. Wolf Theatre. Unlike the other clans which bid away vital forces to earn earlier landings, the Wolves held back and conservatively bid their most elite clusters of Alpha, Beta and Gamma galaxies, content to use the other clans as stalking horses. Thanks to the direct insight and experience of Khan Natasha Kerensky and bondsman-turned-clansman Phelan, Kel Ward, with Innisphere tactics, the Wolves prepared for a long campaign against a foe intelligent enough to take advantage of their weaknesses on a battlefield of his making, suspending all Zellbringen, making plans to build and protect their supply chain, and configuring their Omnimex with a heavy bias toward energy weaponry. Recognising that Clan Wolf would be his hardest opponent, Presenter Marshal Foch devoted his best troops to the battle, transferring the elite 278th to assist the 9th and 10th armies. The 10th assigned to defend the primary target of Skupo, with the 9th guarding the secondary city of Burzo. Further, with the Wolves landing last, Foch would also find that he could transfer troops slated to face other clans after they withdrew in defeat, an ace in the hole he would hope go unused. With the Clan Wolf dropships grounding unopposed 40 kilometers southeast from both target cities, the Wolves' 3rd and 7th battle clusters and Alpha Galaxy's 4th Wolf Guards advanced shoulder to shoulder, as if expecting to fight for every step toward the primary target of Skupo. The clan advance encountered the 278th and 166th Divisions outside of the small hamlets of Forest End, at the foothills of the Porizitsu Mountains. While the 66th Division harried the Wolves' right flank and the inexperienced 283rd Division prevented the 4th Wolf Guards from encircling the 166th and 2787th positions, the Wolf Khans focused all efforts on the primary defensive line, slowly pushing the divisions back. But as the Comguard divisions retreated towards Skupo under artillery cover, the Wolf forces proved strangely hesitant to follow. The 10th Army's CO, Presenter Margot Koivu, ordering recon patrols be stepped up as a precaution. The Comstar forces finally discovered why, with Khan Natasha Kerensky's 13th Wolf Guards launching a series of sweeping attacks to try and completely bypass the 166th Division section of the retreat, desperately ordering the held-in-reserve 282nd Division to delay and push Kerensky's Wolf Spiders back to allow the rest of the retreating Comguard forces to reach the target city. While battered, the elite Wolf troops brutally tore the veteran divisions to shreds. While incredibly costly, the 282nd's sacrifice allowed the remaining divisions of the 10th Army to fall back to their defensive positions outside the city. However, before the 10th Army divisions could dig in, nipping at their heels, the Wolf forces resumed their attack. But while initially successful in breaking through the Comstar lines, the 13th Wolf Guards walked into an ambush as the entrenched 138th Division emerged from hidden positions on an apparently barren hilltop. While any other unit would have broken in the face of such a point-blank ambush, their sheer stubbornness allowed the Wolf Spiders to hold their ground until they succeeded in killing the 138th CO, Presenter Jernberg, and forcing the devastated division back. With Presenter Marshal Focht hurriedly ordering reinforcements from the 9th Army's 198th and 247th Divisions to try and bolster the faltering Comguard battle line, the Wolf Spiders began to tear into the 166th Division. The morale of the Comguard defenders beginning to suffer as the Wolves' unceasing assault ran roughshod over them. With the elite 278th now the sole Comstar unit left effectively combating the Clan Wolf forces, Ilkhan Ulrich Kerensky ordered Delta Galaxy's 11th Wolf Guards to eliminate the troublesome unit. Despite a brilliantly coordinated counterattack against the 11th, the Comguard divisions then found itself encircled by another Wolf cluster. Unable to break the trap, the 278th went down fighting, inflicting heavy losses on their attackers. Now lacking the forces to hold the city after the loss of the 278th, Presenter Marshal Focht ordered the withdrawal of the remaining 66th and 208th Divisions defending it to try and save them from succumbing to the Clan forces, Clan Wolf cautiously advancing to avoid any further traps before taking Skupo unopposed. Leaving several clusters from their Gamma Galaxy to protect Skupo before the bulk of their forces made their way to Burzo, the Wolves' Alpha Galaxy engaged the remaining divisions of the 10th Army that guarded the approaches to the city, while Beta Galaxy fended off reinforcements from the 9th Army's 366th and 379th Divisions. As Comguard lines began to weaken, the withdrawal of Jade Falcon allowed Marshal Focht to transfer the 11th and 13th Armies to fight against the Wolves, with the divisions of the 11th dropping in the fringes of Burzo to reinforce the defences. Pulling back in the face of 3 full armies, the Wolves focused on capturing Comguard depots and securing their own supplies before advancing, only for the divisions of the 11th Army to launch an all-out attack against Beta Galaxies in the Porizitsu Mountains. But under cover of a fierce storm, Natasha Kerensky's Wolf Spiders led the remaining clusters of Alpha and Beta in quietly breaching the Comguard lines in an attempt to bypass 9 divisions. While the Presenter Marshal spotted the Wolves' advance and sent the 39th and 222nd Divisions to separate and stall the Wolf Spiders until the divisions of the ad hoc 13th Army could arrive. Phelan's Axe Star instead held the 222nd trapped until the arrival of their fellows. In the midst of this bloody battle, Senior Khan Garth Radek was killed, with the 11th Army pushing the advantage and forcing the shocked Wolf Warriors into retreat. However, the blow to the Wolves' morale was short-lived, with Kerensky's 13th Wolf Guards crushing the remains of the 222nd and capturing Burzo for Clan Wolf. While poor deployment by Comguard forces allowed the Ghost Bears to earn a marginal victory and the savagery of the Jade Falcons allowed them to extract a draw, Wolf had comprehensively defeated Comstar at every turn, even when facing 4 full armies. In many respects, it would be Clan Wolf's greatest hour, but would bring disastrous consequences. Mirroring the clans as a whole, the divide between Wolves, Warden and Crusader factions only increased in intensity after Tukayyid, eventually resulting in the Refusal War and the sundering of the clan into separate Crusader and Warden halves. The Battle of Tukayyid. Results. After 21 days of fighting, the Ilkhan of the clans conceded victory to Comstar. Of the clans, only the Wolves had successfully gained control of both target cities, with the Ghost Bears earning a marginal victory for holding Spanak, but failing to take Luk, and the Jade Falcons achieving a draw, based on inflicting far greater losses than they took. However, both sides suffered staggering losses in the process. Though victorious, the relatively green Comguards took more than 40% fatalities, with even more injured. Despite their much higher level of experience and lifelong training, the various clans suffered almost as badly, with the Wolves taking the least fatalities at 20%, through to the Diamond Sharks who were virtually wiped out. Beyond pressuring the invaders to delay their advance in order to rebuild their forces, the resounding victory at Tukayyid stopped the clan juggernaut in its tracks, and bought the Inner Sphere a full 15 years to prepare for a resumption of hostilities from clans below the truce line. The victory also elevated Precentor Marshal Anastasius Vogt to nothing short of a legend within the Inner Sphere and the clans. Unfortunately, the actions of Vogt and the Comm Guards would be near overshadowed by Primus Waterly's treacherous Operation Scorpion.